part of our exponents unit is on negative and zero exponents. So in order to do this fully, we're going to cut on the dotted line. Okay, we're going to take, so we can see our table. We're going to have our table here. We're going to take our other one. So we have use properties of exponents. We have definition of zero and negative. We're going to fold this down so it says evaluate expressions. And we will staple it at the top. So when we talk about negative and zero exponents of this handy dandy table, when we know that 2 to the 4th is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. 2 to the 3rd, 2 times 2 times 2, so 4 times 2 is 8. 2 to the 2nd is 2 times 2 is 4. 2 to the 1st is 2. So then when we get to 2 to the 0, really what we're doing on all of these is 1 times this. So if I have 0 2's and I just have 1. If I have a negative 1, then I'm saying 1 times 1 over 2 to the 1st, which is just a half. 1 times 1 over 2 to the 2nd, which is 1/4. Because if you think about it, this is our common ratio, our constant factor. We're essentially cutting these all in half as we go down. As we go up, we're multiplying by 2. So 1 times 2 over 3 is 1 over 8. And 1 times 1 over 2 to the 4th is 1 over 16. So we're going to talk about here is this zero exponent. Zero exponents we're going to learn are always 1. And if we have negative exponents, it becomes a fraction. Now, notice my fraction did not become negative. It simply went to the denominator. So it would appear that I stapled these backwards. That's okay. We'll look here, and we'll go back to that one. We'll fix it in a minute. Here you can see b to the 0 is 1, 4 to the 0 is 1. B to a negative exponent is 1 over, and then this whole thing goes to the denominator, and our exponent became positive. Whole thing went to the denominator, exponent became positive. Okay? So if we're looking at some examples here, simplify the expressions below. Remember we talked about a power raised to a power you have to distribute. That was in our last lesson. So this becomes 6 times 1 to the 3rd. X times 1 to the 3rd, y times negative 6 to the times 3, sorry, 1 times 3. So we get 6 to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, y to the negative 18. Well, this, because it says write with positive exponents, this is a negative. That means it needs to go to the denominator. The positive exponents are going to stay on top, and the negative one to the bottom, and it does become a positive value. Okay? Here's another one. We're going to multiply all these by 5. 1 times 5, negative 2 times 5, 3 times 5. So I get 4 to the 5th, x to the negative 10th, y to the 15th. And again, this one is negative, so this is going to have to go to the bottom. We can leave this 4 to the 5th. You can multiply it out with your calculator if you wanted. Over x to the 10th. Again, notice it went to the denominator. When we look at our next page yeah, I totally folded this backwards. Let's fix that real quick. I am sorry about that. We need to flip that middle one over, I believe. Or maybe we just leave it the way it was. Oh, okay. Sorry, it goes like this. Take this one, fold this one this way. So then we have our table, we have our rule. And then we have some examples there. All right, sorry about that. So if you're looking at it now, it should look like this. Definition, then evaluate, then properties. So we've looked at our table. We looked at our rules. So if we're going to evaluate means we're just going to solve. So this means this is a negative. This is going to go in the bottom. So we're going to write 1 over 5 squared. Remember, when it goes to the denominator, that means that it is going to become a positive. So we could even simplify this to 1 over 25. Now this one's easy. Anything to the 0 power we said is just 1. Don't overthink it. It's just 1. Even though this is negative, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to look at, let's do 3 and 4. I'm going to ask you to try 5, 6, and 7. But 3 and 4, now this is negative. That doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is this exponent is negative. So it goes in the bottom. Now, when you do this in your calculator, it is extremely important that you put that -3 in parentheses. Otherwise, it thinks it's -1 times 3 to the 4. So this is a positive 81. That's going to be my denominator. Okay? If you're not sure, you can always put it, see, so I just did the denominator part right here. So if you put it in the calculator with that negative exponent, you'll get your fraction. Okay, this one, now this has a negative in the bottom, so that means it's going to go up to the top. So this becomes 2 to the positive 3, which we know is 8. And all of these, if they have regular numbers, you can check all these in your calculator. Okay? If they're just variables, you're going to have to, you could plug in a number to see what happens. I do want you to use your rules from before. Remember, we have like bases, they're being multiplied, so you would add. Here you're going to distribute like we did before, and here you're going to subtract. So you see what happens on 5, 6, and 7. We did 1 and 2 here. I do want you on number 3, keep in mind when we have division, we need to subtract. So this is -2 minus 1, 4 minus 6. The regular numbers, your coefficients, those stay. So I have 1 over 2. This is x to the -3, y to the -2. These are going to go on the denominator also. So 1 over 2, x to the 3rd, y squared. I would like you to try number 4 at home, and we'll look at the number 4 as well as 5, 6, and 7 here tomorrow when you come in.